Road to City Hall. Tomorrow night, Mike Bloomberg and Bill Thompson will face off right here on NY1 in their first debate in the mayor's race. Tonight, we preview that debate by welcoming a representative from each campaign to discuss many of the key issues. We welcome Bloomberg supporter Kelly Conlon, the president of NY1's Pro-Choice New York, and Brooklyn State Assemblyman Hakeem Jeffries, who backs Bill Thompson. It is so nice to see everybody tonight, and I guess, Assemblyman, I'll start with you. How would you describe the tone of this campaign?
Well, this is a highly negative campaign, and it's unfortunate that the mayor has decided, as opposed to running on his record, he's trying to tear down Bill Thompson. I think it's an act of desperation. The fact that he spent $65 million has gone nowhere in the polls, and a significant amount of that money has been spent in attacking Bill Thompson, as opposed to talking about Bloomberg's vision for a third term, speaks volumes. And I think it has to do with the fact that he is running scared, and he's concerned about what he did with respect to term limits. It's a permanent stain on his legacy, and Bloomberg knows that no amount of money he spends will help clean up the mess that he created with respect to our democracy.
Kelly Conlon.
Well, not to be surprising, I actually totally disagree. I think that a lot of the negativity that you're seeing emanates from the Thompson campaign. I think that Mike Bloomberg, you know, you have to put a context in term limits. Term limits, he decided to run again after the Lehman Brothers collapse, after the city and the nation were in total economic free fall. That's what prompted this decision. And so, you know, it's not that he just wanted to do it. He doesn't need this job. He feels that he's doing it for the people of New York. And I actually hearken it back to another historical time. You know, Franklin Roosevelt ran for another term, much to the chagrin of a lot of people, because he felt his nation needed it. Michael Bloomberg's running because he feels that his city, that he's best prepared to lead this city together in the future. And I think that his record shows that. And I frankly wish that we could really get to the real issues and not sort of beat around the bush and talk about things that are, you know, tangential to real New Yorkers' lives. Things like city services, things like education, things like the economy in New York. These are the issues that I hope that we're going to get to in the next few weeks, because I think that's what sets Mike Bloomberg apart.
Well, you know, I didn't know FDR, but Michael Bloomberg clearly was no FDR. And in fact, FDR was authorized to be able to run for a third and then a fourth term. The Constitution was subsequently changed. What Michael Bloomberg, by his own definition, did was disgraceful. He said it was disgraceful to legislatively repeal the will of the voters and extend term limits, and then he turned around and he disgraced himself. Now, I know that the Bloomberg campaign does not want to discuss this issue because it's an issue that's resonating all across the city of New York, in Manhattan, in the outer boroughs, in white ethnic communities, in black and Latino communities, rich, poor, middle class, all across the city of New York, because New Yorkers were tremendously disappointed by the undemocratic power grab that took place. Now, let's keep in mind, Hugo Chavez, the so-called Venezuelan dictator, when he wanted to repeal term limits, held a referendum not once but twice. And the voters in New York City, all we wanted was for the Hugo Chavez standard of democracy to be applicable in the city of New York, and Michael Bloomberg couldn't even meet that standard. But we're happy to also talk about the issues, because with respect to working families and middle-class New Yorkers, Michael Bloomberg has failed. He's a Republican, and his Republican economic policies have failed large numbers of people all across the city of New York. Unemployment is at a 16-year high, 10.3%. Homelessness is off the charts. Despite Michael Bloomberg's promise, his promise to reduce homelessness, there are 15,000 homeless children every night in the city of New York who are sleeping in our shelters. That's a disgrace, and Michael Bloomberg has failed to do anything about that problem.
You know, I'm glad that you're willing to really talk about the issues, because I think that it's really clear that Michael Bloomberg has an incredible array and a background of achievement for this city. This city is so much better off than it was when Mike Bloomberg took place. You talk about middle-class values, middle-class issues. Well, there's nothing more middle class than being able to reach out and contact your government. He instituted the 311 number. It didn't exist before him. When Mike Bloomberg took office, the city hospital system was in a shambles. They were talk of privatization of the city hospitals, and yet today, our city hospital system, 13 hospitals, are among the best hospitals in the nation, and in fact, you can compare them to any private hospital in New York. Those are places that every single New Yorker has access to. So, you know, this reminds me a little bit of the 2000 election. The 2000 election, I was pleading with friends to consider Al Gore, and yet people were a little anesthetized. They really felt like, well, you know, we're sort of tired of Bill Clinton and Al Gore, and, you know, I'm certainly not comparing Bill Thompson to Ralph Nader, but I am saying that you can have a little anesthesia, you can forget what the accomplishments are of the past 8 years, and they're dramatic. He is the #1 enemy of the NRA. He has taken guns off the city streets. He actually passed anti-smoking legislation that was the model for the entire nation, and because of that, 100,000 premature deaths was taken away in New York City, and an issue that's very close to my heart. When it was announced that sex education for comprehensive sex ed could be available to the school systems across this country, Mike Bloomberg said immediately New York City will be first in line for that money. Bill Thompson has yet to even address the issue of sex education, and you know, he's someone who I said to you before I've been very close to over the years. I'm surprised that his campaign didn't immediately get out there like the Bloomberg campaign did, and that's what concerns me. Bloomberg is such a maverick. He's such a bold leader, and I worry that, you know, Bill Thompson's campaign is not quite there yet.
Well, let me just answer this question, because you two can do point, counterpoint all night long here. But you basically said that the mayor's time is up. You feel that New Yorkers are tired of him. But why is it that Bloomberg is winning almost every demographic group?
Well, I think that, one, New Yorkers are still taking the time to get to know Bill Thompson. They know Mike Bloomberg, and a significant number of voters in the city of New York are rejecting Mike Bloomberg. Those are the facts. $65 million is a staggering amount of money, and he's on his way to spend more than $100 million, and still only half of the people in New York City at this point are ready to give him another chance. And when they learn more about Bill Thompson and the fact that he's going to stand up for working families and middle-class New Yorkers, where Bloomberg has stood up for the wealthy and for the well-off and his friends on Wall Street, the rich developers who he's helped, you know, it's shameful. I have unemployment rates that are staggeringly high in the communities that I represent, Fort Greene, Clinton Hill, Bedford-Stuyvesant, in the public housing development. Michael Bloomberg has done nothing about that, yet he spends $45 million to retrain the same Wall Street executives that are responsible for the economic collapse in the first place. This is just another example of Bloomberg. Yes, you know, on moderate social issues, you know, he's a moderate. But with respect to his economic policies, you know, he's a Republican, just like Giuliani was a Republican.
Okay. Ms. Conlon, and then when we come back, I'll flip it and have a couple of questions for you about Bloomberg. But a quick reaction before we take a break.
I just don't see the reasoning that Bloomberg hasn't stood up for every middle-class New Yorker in our city services, our transportation system, the fact that crime is down 30% in this city since he took office. Those are all middle-class values. Those are things that we all care about. You know, you can go on all you want about parking tickets. Yeah, parking tickets are a bummer, but the fact that I can take my children to school every day on the subway and back home again at night, it speaks volumes to me. Like the commercial says, it's priceless, and those are the kinds of real issues that New Yorkers are looking at right now.
On that note, it is time for a break. We'll have much more tonight with Kelly Conlon and Assemblyman Hakeem Jeffries in just a moment. And later, we will ask the 4 members of our Consultants Corner how the 2 candidates for mayor should be preparing for their first debate tomorrow night. Stay with us.